Good morning, everybody. Again, morning my time, maybe not yours. I know we've got a lot of people who watch this from uh, other countries across the pond. So I know it's often very late for many of you. So good evening. Maybe I should just start with good evening since it seems like most of the people who jump on live are in the evening. So welcome to Dev Mentor Dave Saturday live stream. And today is going to be a little bit shorter. We're going to, excuse me. I've got some things I need to take care of, so we're going to go probably till about 11 today. Try to keep it around an hour, and part of that is because some of what I have to say might be a little controversial. So we'll have to see if anybody agrees or disagrees with me as we go through it today. But anyway, if you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello. As always, feel free to ask any questions that you might have, whether it's related to what we're talking about or not related to what we're talking about. That's totally fine. I will probably do a little bit more monologue here at the beginning, as far as what I want to talk about today, and then we can jump into questions that you guys have. But again, we're going to be here for about an hour today, which is half as long as we usually are. So jump in and get going. So I apologize if you usually come in the latter half of the live stream. You're gonna be late, and I apologize for that. But at least we're able to actually have the live stream today. So feel free to leave comments in the comment section if you want to roast me or tell me that I'm stupid or wrong because of what we're going to talk about today. Certainly feel free to do that. It's not my goal to sit here and get criticism. You know, they say all publicity is good publicity, blah, 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 if you can say it right. So that's not necessarily what I ascribe to. My goal is not necessarily to get a bunch of publicity or get famous for being stupid or having weird opinions. But I do think that the thing we're going to talk about today, the problem that we're going to talk about today, has a solution that, as you probably saw in the title, it has at least one or several fixes that I think we need, but they're not fixes that we necessarily want. And I think as we look at the real problems and the sources of those problems, I think you'll understand why these are good solutions. Are they perfect solutions? Absolutely not. Are they solutions that will work for every single person in every single company? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that we're going to offer the perfect solution or that there is a perfect solution, but I think some of the things we're going to talk about today would be really helpful, not just for companies who are hiring junior developers or any developers right now, but also for those who are out there in the job market looking for a job. Again, probably not the fixes or the solutions that you want to hear, but I think they're ones that are going to be generally helpful for most people. And we'll get into some of those caveats here in a few minutes. So again, if you're watching live, jump into the chat, say hello. Let me know if you have any questions. If you do have a question, type at DevMentorDave at the beginning. Just puts a little box around it so I can see it and recognize that you're trying to get a hold of me, and make sure that I interact with you and your question, because really that's what we're here for. I want to be here to answer your questions and help you out in your journey as a junior developer or mid or senior level developer, wherever you're at in your journey. So let's dive into the topic. Now, what we're seeing a lot in the job hiring process is a lot of different issues, but I think they all revolve around some key components. And some of those issues that we're seeing, you know, from an employer, from an employee standpoint, from a job seeker candidate standpoint, are the some of the sorry, let me collect my thoughts here. So some of the things that we're seeing from an employee, from a man, I cannot think today. This is not good. Some of the things we're seeing from a candidate standpoint, from a job seeker standpoint, okay? Some of these would be things like fake jobs. I've heard a lot of people complaining about jobs that they're applying for, and all of a sudden it goes away, and maybe they see it a couple days later or something like that, and like there's or they never hear anything, or something comes out and other people found out that it was a fake job. that's a huge problem. If you are spending time going through a process to apply for a job and it's not real, that's really degrading. And it's frankly, it's probably not real companies that are doing that. It's probably fake companies trying to get information. It's probably people trying to get your information to use so that they can create other fake entities like job seekers. That's another part of the problem. We have a lot of AI auto submission of resumes and auto submission to jobs that either the people aren't even real when they're submitting to those jobs, or they are completely unqualified for it, but they're just basically spamming these jobs. And so then you have companies trying to find a way to get around that, and they're putting up barriers to try to stop the spam. And then that means sometimes that stops real candidates from getting through into the process. And so it's just kind of a snake eating its tail situation, right? It's a catch-22. You're dependent on these services and products, but yet those services and products are giving you bad information, bad data, bad recruits, and so you're filtering that, but you're also filtering out real people. And and then we've got fake candidates, like I said, throwing in a bunch of AI candidates that don't really actually even exist, and that poisons the well, so to speak, when it comes to the job market, and you actually getting your face before an interviewer, or your resume in front of somebody else's face. But then on the flip side, we're also seeing issues with candidates who are going through a process that is a little antiquated now, which sounds odd because everything is modern, but it's antiquated because it's allowing you to use modern tools like AI and things like that to actually cheat in the process, even live cheating on the camera. And so we're dealing with a lot of different issues. And really, in my opinion, those issues revolve around the desire from both hiring companies and the desire from candidates to make the process as easy and simple and less time consuming as possible. And what we've done there, so that's one issue, right? And so what we've done with that is we've created all these systems and we've created all these processes that sound really good and are automated and do save time and let you get your resume out to lots of different places and things like that. But in the end, everybody's doing that. And so now we've created, by pursuing ease or making things easier for us, we've created a system that allows it to be harder for us in the end, right? We've pursued making something easy, and in the end, we've actually made it harder to accomplish what we were actually trying to accomplish. On the hiring side, it's trying to find people who are qualified for the positions that we're hiring for. On the candidate side, it's trying to find jobs that will fit what we want and what we need and what we're looking for in the job market. And so all this stuff that we've done with technology and with AI and things like that has been really nice, but it's also created a lot of the problems that we're dealing with now. Another one of the sources of the problems that we're dealing with is the reality of remote work. Now, again, I'm not against remote work. Okay, we have a good number of people who work remotely for our company. I love working remotely at home. In fact, I've done that a lot in my career. And there are plenty of people who do a great job. I mean, we just had an all hands meeting at work yesterday, and it was kind of cool to see all the different people up on our screen, because they're all the different people that are remote, whether they're remote locally or remote in other places of the country. So it was kind of cool to see all those different people. I don't always get to see them all the time, but the world of remote hiring has just exploded, especially since the pandemic back in 22. Was it 22? Something like that. 2020, somewhere around there. I don't remember. It's been a few years. I don't even remember what it was now. But ever since the pandemic, that really exploded even more because people couldn't go out, and so you had a lot more hiring. People could get hired from other parts of the country or the other parts of the world much easier at that time, and so companies and employees began to be much more reliant on remote work. And even today, I mean, that's one of the big things people look for is remote work. In fact, people get really upset and angry when companies have these policies where people have to come back into the office, even if it's in a hybrid model. A lot of people don't want to do that. And so we've got these challenges of technology and AI and the boom that's going on there. And we have this challenge of remote work. And I don't think those things are ever going to go away, but I think there are some things that we can do. In fact, really, it's kind of a step backwards that will help us do better from a hiring front and help us do better from a job search front, that I think will actually fix a lot of the issues. And again, I understand this won't work for everybody. I understand that some people depend based on their location and their technology and things like that. They depend on certain realities such as remote work. But I think we need to get back to the concept of hiring and applying locally. Now, it's easy, again, it's easy for me to say that. You know, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, which is in the middle of the United States, oftentimes referred to as Silicon Prairie. You know, you've got Silicon Valley out in California, and then I don't know if there is like a Silicon something on the east. I don't know, but Silicon Prairie is what Kansas City in the Midwest is kind of known as to some degree. And so it's easy for me as somebody who lives in a very, oddly enough, tech friendly area of the country and the world, to say, well, you just need to be hiring locally, or you just need to be applying locally. And I get that. I understand that I'm coming from that perspective. But I think when you think about the benefits of hiring and applying locally, they're definitely going to be higher benefits than all the benefits that you get from being able to apply remotely and work remotely, to apply just via technology. And so I want to talk about some of the ways that we can maybe bring back some of the things from the past that will actually help in our pursuit of fixing some of these issues, or maybe even just circumventing some of these issues that we're seeing in the job market today. Okay, so what are some of the things that we can do as companies, as an industry, and as individuals? And the first one that popped in my mind was going back to having job fairs. I don't know about you, but job fairs used to be a big thing in this area. We'd have a job fair for all kinds of different companies. I don't know that they were always even industry specific, but you could go to this job fair. You could go down to something like Bartle Hall, which is a place down here, massive convention center area. You could go down there, and companies would be there with their booth, and you could walk up to a real person at a real table, and you could talk up to them and find out about their company. You could even oftentimes hand in a resume and get your name on, in my opinion, kind of a short stack. Why is this good? Well, it's good because A, you know the company probably exists. The likelihood of somebody spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for a booth, if they're just going to collect people's information as a fake company, that's less likely to happen in real person. It's much more likely they're going to pay $50 a month or whatever on LinkedIn and create a fake company. You know, that's much more likely to happen than somebody spending the time and the effort to make a booth and do all that stuff in order to meet people. And that works both ways on the employer side too. So if you're there in a physical location, most people are not going to have somebody go around and hand out a resume for somebody else, right? You're typically not going to have somebody fake that. And so you're going to talk most likely to real candidates. You're going to talk most likely to people who are actually looking for a job, who are actually in the market. They're not just a faceless name on a resume or an auto submit to your web form or application. Even though we don't do a bunch of you know, advertising and things like that necessarily, we still get a number of people who I'm not really sure if they're real on our page on our website when we allow people to apply to jobs, right? It's just the reality of the world that we live in today. But going to a job fair and presenting at a job fair, I know they still have them every once in a while. In fact, my son went to one that was just for a specific company. One company held a job fair. Now, they're a pretty big company here locally in Kansas City, but one company had a job fair. And guess what? He never even made it. He had a short period of time he was going to be able to be there, and he never even made it in the doors. There were so many people lined up to go into this job fair that he never made it in before he had to leave. Like, there are real people out there who will really come to a place and even stand in line to get a job if it's a place that they're interested in working at. So job fairs can be a really, really great opportunity for us to cut through or go around, circumvent the issues that we're seeing in the job market right now. Now, again, that has to be something that is local, right? So, excuse me. So if you're going to talk to people personally, you're going to have to be here. If you're looking for a job in a specific city, you're going to have to actually be in that city. So, and again, this is hiring and applying locally. I understand there are good reasons for hiring remotely. There's good reasons for applying to jobs remotely. But at the end of the day, those are issues that are making bigger problems in the industry. And so we've got to find, or maybe go back to some of the practices that we used to do that actually fix some of these issues that we're seeing now. All right, so bring back job fairs. That's idea number one. Another thing to consider as a company is maybe establishing multiple locations. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have an office in multiple locations, but having a presence in multiple locations can be helpful. If you've got maybe a hiring manager or some sort of team lead or something like that who's involved in the interview process, having them in another location, another city, where they can meet with people in person, that is huge. Maybe it's you're going to have to create an opportunity where you send somebody out to another location in order to build a presence. You know, I'm thinking of starting a team in another city, right? Let's say you want to start a team in Chicago. So you don't have anybody in Chicago. Well, send somebody out there, build a team there in that location, so that then you've got somebody there who, if you want to hire remotely or you want to hire in that area, you have someone there who can do in-person interviews. So that's on the hiring side, right? That's on the company side. On the client side, on the job search side, look for companies that are hiring locally and interact with them physically. Now, that could include going to their office and dropping off a resume. Maybe you want to go on LinkedIn and see if you can find out who might be the right person to try to get a hold of. And maybe you get, a manila folder, not folder, but a manila envelope, and put your resume in there with a good cover letter talking about the fact that you're local and you're looking for local companies. And then, seal it up, put their name on it, and go to the actual office and say, I have something for so-and-so. And when you think about it, most people don't get mail anymore, right? Most people don't get stuff dropped off to them at the office unless they're ordering things for the office. And so when you get something physical dropped off at the office or mailed to the office, you're probably going to open that. You're probably going to look at it, right? And so if I'm a hiring manager, or if I'm somebody who's in that interview process, I'm going to probably look at whatever that is. And if I open that up and I see that you're local and you took the time to come by and drop this off, I'm probably going to look at that a lot more intensely than I will just a random resume that was submitted online. Now, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to go to the front of the line. That doesn't guarantee that you're even a good fit for the job. but it's that weird little extra step that sometimes can get your foot in the door in a way that circumvents all the automation, right? You're actually saying all this automation is great, but that's working against me, so I'm going to go around that. Maybe it's maybe if you're working remotely, it's as simple as mailing something to a company instead of using their online. Now I know, again, a lot of companies are going to say that they want you to use the online application, but companies, if somebody takes advantage of this, look at what they send, because they understand that you're dealing with the same issues they're dealing with. Automation, remote work, all of that is working against both sides. So let's work together on this process. If you get a resume in the mail, or if you get a resume dropped off, maybe have somebody that's available most of the time to even just talk to them. A lot of times there'll be like initial phone screen. That's what we do in our process. We have an initial phone screen where, if we're interested in a candidate based on their resume, we'll talk to them over the phone, kind of get to know them a little bit over a quick phone screen, and then we'll decide if we're going to set up an interview, and then we're going to decide after the interview if they're a good candidate for what we're looking for and a good fit for our team. So ours is a pretty short process. We don't like to waste a lot of time in the process, but most companies are going to have some sort of process in place, hopefully, and that starts usually with some sort of initial phone screen or something like that. And so what I would do is have somebody that's available to do a phone screen live if somebody happens to come to the office. Somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm dropping this off for so-and-so. It's a resume, and if they're available, or somebody's available, I'd be happy to speak with somebody. If you are available, if you have somebody available, like you can within 30 minutes have done everything that you need to with this person. And again, they may not be the right person, but that's okay. You've interacted with somebody who is real. You've interacted with somebody who has taken effort to actually connect with you, with somebody who is local, or at least willing to be local. That's another piece of this. Maybe you're not local, but are you willing to travel? Are you willing to relocate? Companies, are you willing to help people relocate if they're a really good fit for your company? Again, not saying that remote work is bad or wrong. You can still do remote work, but we've got to find ways to move past the automation and move past the filtering and move past the faking, and get to where we are interacting with people face to face or voice to voice, one-on-one. Now, can some of that stuff still be faked? Yes, absolutely it can. But if we are hiring locally and if we are applying locally, it is much, much more difficult to fake in those specific scenarios. Also, again, definitely do in-person interviews. If they are local, or if they can come into the office, that is much better, because again, people, even on these video chats, they're using chat GPT and things like that to listen to the questions and provide answers. And they can even use software that makes it look like they're not looking at their computer, makes it look like they're looking at their camera. Like, the technology is great for lots of things, but it's also great for cheating, and people are doing that. So bring someone in to the office and have a face-to-face interview. It's probably going to be a little bit longer interview. Sometimes it's not. There were years ago, I applied for a job that I thought was something that I was qualified for. It turned out I was not qualified for it, because it was the job description wasn't very good. It was probably one of the shortest interviews I've ever had. I think it was like 10 minutes. But that happens, and it was fine. I went into the office. I had the interview. They explained to me that this was a different job than I thought it was, and that was basically it. So that's okay. That stuff happens, but you're going to deal most likely with real people if you're dealing with them face to face. So, have real in-person interviews. A person who is interviewing in front of you is much, much more difficult to cheat. They can hem and haw and figure out, try to evaluate what you're trying to say and give you the answer that you want to hear. But at the end of the day, you're going to be able to tell a lot of that stuff as you're interacting with them, whether or not they really know what they're talking about, without having them in front of a screen, without giving them the ability to get help in that process. So real interviews with real people, face to face, in a real location. And again, that's why those job fairs are really big. Um, from both a hiring standpoint and an application standpoint, um, building your network is huge. And again, we like to do that electronically. We like to do that remotely via things like LinkedIn and stuff like that. We love the idea of building a network online and being able to, at a moment's notice, reach out to 1,000 people that we're connected to, and that's great. And that's not, again, not necessarily wrong. I'm building my network right on LinkedIn, and that's where most of my posting and interaction and stuff happens outside of these Saturday live streams. So I'm not saying that any of that is bad, but again, you're dealing with a lot of noise when you're doing something through social media. So if you can go to a networking event, companies, if you can host a networking event, maybe it's a meetup, maybe it's something that you're talking about AI or something like that, right? But if you can host a networking event where people come to it, and if you're looking for a job, go to networking events, because you never know who you're going to meet in real life, in real person, where you can hand them a resume. Take your resumes with you if you're going to a network event. Print some out and hand them to somebody. Have a way of sending it electronically, very very accessible to you. Maybe it's just a document on your phone and you can airdrop it to somebody, or you can do a quick email to somebody as you're talking to them. But go to those places where real people are. That's really the key at the end of the day. Go to places where real people are. Whether you're a hiring company, go to places where real people are. If you're a candidate, go to places where real people are. That's the way we're going to circumvent the situation that we have in the hiring industry right now. Another thing that you can do is use recruiters. Now, again, this is something that is kind of a controversial subject even right now, especially with AI and all the automation and things that we have in the industry. A lot of recruiters are feeling kind of pushed out of the industry right now, or feeling like they can't really get companies to use them or or help candidates out because there's too many candidates and things like that. Um, Companies need to understand that if they don't have the time, and if AI is not helping them find the right candidates and filter out exactly the wrong ones and keep the good ones, use a human. Use somebody who's going to spend the time actually interacting with real people in their industry, especially locally. If there's somebody who can find people locally, even if it's local to them, this kind of goes back to having somebody in another city, right? Even if you're hiring somebody who is in another city to do the recruiting for you, um, they're going to be able to interact with real people. They're going to be able to make phone calls that you won't be able to make, and talk to people and pre-screen people for you to some degree. So, and again, we don't use recruiters at the company that I work for. Oh, excuse me. But almost every job I've ever gotten in this industry, I've gotten through a recruiter. And I think part of that is because there's just a different level of trust and interaction that you get dealing with a recruiter than you do going through an online process. There's no guarantee either way, but at least with a recruiter, you have somebody to bounce ideas off of, to interact with. So as a hiring company, use recruiters. If you don't have people in house to be able to handle a better process, an in-person process, use a recruiter. If you are a candidate, find recruiters, build relationships with recruiters. Again, they're not always going to have something for you, and that's just the reality of the market. But build relationships with recruiters, get to know them, and spend time telling them who you are and what you're looking for, because you never know when they're going to have something and they might remember you, especially if you meet them in person. Now, you can't always go to coffee with every recruiter, and not every recruiter has the time to go to coffee with every candidate, right? But I've gone to coffee with many different recruiters over the years, and not all of them got me a job, but some of them did. And so you just never know. But, I actually have them on my list. Some of them, have moved up in their companies and things like that. They may not be actively recruiting anymore, but that's another way of circumventing the process and the problems that we have because of the process that we currently see in the hiring interview process in our industry right now. Okay, last but not least is when you see stuff. What's that phrase? If you see something, say something. When you see stuff, let the online overlords know, right? If you're on a job board and you're seeing listings that look suspicious, flag them. Let the company know. If you are seeing a lot of people who seem to be interacting with your job posts and they don't seem to be real, tell the company that you're hosting those job posts on. Most companies have the ability to do a database search and see who all submitted resumes and how many resumes they submitted to other things, and they should have things in place to be able to start working on this. To me, that's the biggest issue, is the companies that are providing these opportunities are not policing it well, and they need to do a better job of policing it. And honestly, the best way that we can force them to police this better is to vote with our wallets. Stop using them. Companies, if you're seeing that certain online job boards are giving you really bad candidates, walk away. It's better to not waste your time sifting through all those candidates and missing good candidates than to have all that stuff going on. If you can push them to make changes. Companies do not typically want to make changes to their products unless they have to, because it costs money, right? So if you're on LinkedIn and LinkedIn's not doing anything about the job issue and the massive applications and the AI applications, they're not doing anything to stop that. Stop using LinkedIn or stop using Career Builder or Monster. Now I'm dating myself. Those are ones that that were really big back when I was doing it. So stop using it. Candidates, stop using it. If the real candidates stop using the job boards, then all they're going to have is spam, and they're going to be forced to do something about the issue. So don't just accept that things are the way they are. Do something about it. Continue posting about fake jobs. Continue posting about fake applicants. Whatever it is. We recently just found somebody who is on LinkedIn claiming to work for our company, and they probably don't even really exist. So we'll have to deal with that. But people are liars and cheaters, and that's unfortunately a bigger reality than I think people want to admit. And we have made the problem a lot easier and for them to do that, and we've made the problem a lot more ubiquitous through the advent of technology and the reliance on technology, as well as the advent of remote work. And again, technology is not bad. Remote work isn't bad. But we've got to maybe take a step back, rethink how we're interacting with real people, and provide maybe some old school ways of getting around what we thought was a good invention or we thought were good ways of moving forward, and maybe take a step backwards and go back to some things that we used to do. Again, this may not be the solution that we want, but it's probably the solution that we need if we really want to fix the issues that we're seeing from both a hiring company standpoint as well as a candidate standpoint. So hopefully that is at least helpful to you in some way. Again, I know it's not going to be perfect for everybody. A lot of you are remote, you work remotely, and so you rely on that remote work and that remote process. And I completely understand that, and hopefully we can find ways to even make that better in the days ahead. But if you have the opportunity and the ability to work locally, I would really encourage you to focus your energy there. As a company that's hiring people, focus your energy on hiring locally. That doesn't mean they can't work remotely. Again, I work remotely 3 out of 5 days a week. That's perfectly fine. But at least the person is real all the way through the process. And that's really the big thing. Automation and AI and auto submissions and cheating and all that stuff, that happens because we're not really social people. We act like we're social people, but in the end, we're not. We're becoming more and more introverted, and this process that we currently have makes that a whole lot easier to stay introverted. And so we've got to get out there. We've got to talk to people. We've got to build real relationships, real networks outside of LinkedIn, and we've got to make it happen locally. And if we will do that, I think we'll see a huge boom in in our local businesses, in our local economies. Hiring people at the market rates that are good locally only improves the economy of our local cities and states and countries and all that. So there's lots of good reasons to follow these, and there's probably lots of reasons why people are going to jump on here and say I'm an idiot because of this, or this, and that's fine. Again, this is not a perfect solution for every situation, but hopefully it's at least giving you something to think about, whether you're a company that's hiring people or you're somebody looking for the job in the current market the way that it is in the development industry. All right, so I don't think anybody is online today, so it's kind of a short one and late notice a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and jump offline. So I hope this will be probably the shortest live stream we've ever done. Um, but if you're watching this later, certainly feel free um, to leave a comment. And again, feel free to tell me if you think I'm wrong. Provide other solutions that you think might be good, or something that maybe I should interact with in a topic. I do read all the comments. I try to respond to all of them if I can. So feel free to leave a comment. And if you are watching this later today, have a great day. Or whenever you're watching it, have a great day. And let me know if there's something that you would like me to tackle in the future from a topic standpoint. I'd be happy to do that as well. So I'm going to say good day, and hopefully you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your weekend, getting ready for another great day, great week of work. So I'll talk to you later. If I can find the button. There we go.